Welcome to Healing Generations, a podcast creating a dialogue uplifting the importance of healing, strengthening, and supporting our communities, and that addresses the disparities and inequities in communities of color. Healing Generations is brought to you by the Healing Generations Institute, a collaborative initiative of the National Compadres Network and the Brotherhood of Elders. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on our new releases.
Welcome. This is Tello, and I want to say, Klasukamatli, thank you all for joining us today for the Healing Generations podcast, brought to you by the National Compadres Network, the Brotherhood of Elders, the National Comadres Network, and so many other people that collaborate to make this possible. We want to once again thank you for joining us, for choosing to go on this journey with us, to be along with us, and to share the energy as we, in this journey, focus on healing generations. And in that process, we also recognize that we're here to lift up the generations of medicine, generations of traditions, of songs, of laughter, of joy, of blessings, to remind us really the sacred blessed beings that we are. So thank you for joining us, and we want to begin by thanking the ancestors. So let's all just stop and just take a deep breath. Welcome in those ancestors, all those people that have come before, that have sacrificed, that have loved us, that have prayed for us, that dreamed for us, and we welcome even those ancestors in that are still need a little healing, still need a little bit of that medicine, because when they transitioned over, there was still some teachings that they had to give us that way. But we want to acknowledge all of your ancestors, and wherever you are, whatever your root is, whatever your ethnicity is, you come from many roots there, just bring them all with you and recognize they're all sacred that way. And we're going to invite all those spirits in today as we continue to learn and grow and heal together. And I'm so happy and feel so grateful that we have two wonderful maestras with us today. Really happy to be in dialogue and discussion. Every time we're together, I learn something. Every time together, we laugh a lot and joke a lot, and we just have a good time. We say we cruise. We're always cruising, the old school kind of cruising, how when you cruise down the block, listen to some good oldies or rancheras or some good, R&B music, whatever, just cruise. And, so we're going to do that today. We're going to go through a cruise today. We're going to cruise down the block, cruise down the year, and see what teachings come to us today as we begin this journey. I just want to welcome and acknowledge Maestra Debra Camarillo and Maestra Susie Armijo, two of, I would say, some of the most wonderful heart, spirit people that I know. And I feel so blessed to be, in relationship with them, know them and be relatives to them, but also to be able to do work in this way with them. So I want to thank you all for, Maestra Debra, maybe you could start off and we'll pass the palabra to you and let you greet the folks today.
Thank you, Maestro. I just first of all want to start off by saying I am the proud daughter of Esteban Leos Camarillo and Anita Figueroa. And, when you said about inviting the ancestors, I am so clear and cognizant that without my parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents, great, all the way back, right? I wouldn't be here. And that's the same for everyone else. And acknowledging, we're in 2021. Unbelievable. To me, I remember thinking that once we came into 2000, we would be like the Jetsons flying all over and, things would be, kind of like E.T., and we're at 2021. Unbelievable. And it also marks the 15th year of my father's transition, and 15 is also a significant number. And so I I'm grateful. I'm grateful to have been able to enter into 2021, an amazing event I never thought would happen, right? Because many of us thought we would never even reach this time. And so
Mm,
I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful um, that I have the honor to walk into this new year and to walk with everyone else that entered into this new year. And so for me, it's a blessing. And of course, as you said, Maestro, it's always a joy, to be with you and Maestra as we cruise down to new adventures and to just see where this is going to take us today.
mm,
So that's Comadli, and looking forward for this conversation today.
mm. Thank you, Master Debra. Master Susie?
Gracias. Thank you. Gracias a Dios. Another precious day of life. And as Maestro always says, and breath. These days, that breath is just starting to be something we always took for granted. And now every breath is a blessing, And I'm very mindful of that. And I do my deep breathing exercises. I do it with a lot of intention for all those that are fighting for their breath.
Mm,
And I'm just trying to send them that energy and strength to keep on breathing, to keep on going and moving forward. I'm the proud daughter of Joseph Louis Esquivel, Stella Esquivel, and I just feel so blessed that I had them in my life. I had them as teachers of so many lessons, both good and bad, and that have given me so much strength and wisdom throughout the years. And I also just feel so blessed to have made it to 2021. It was a scary year towards the end. It just seemed like every day was a phone call of another loved one passing on, and I just really got kind of a deep anxiety, like, are we going to make it?
mm,
But
Mm,
here we are. And so, gracias a Dios for all the prayers that are always offered up and the intentions. And gracias a Dios, we're all here together. Both of you, Maestra Deb, Maestra Jerry, just so powerful reflections and Lak'ech for myself. I'm blessed with the luxury of being in your presence, both of you, all the time, that reflecting back to me and making me really see who I am, who I want to be, and who I don't want to be.
mm,
Always offering your wisdom, your words of wisdom, and I just feel so honored that you invited me along for the ride.
mm, mm, mm.
Looking forward to our conversation as we go forward, and hopefully we'll come to some more wisdom and teachings for ourselves, and hopefully those that are listening, that might be those flashes of light that we need to keep going as we walk together in this new year.
Well, thank you, Maestras. As you were mentioning, the reality that we've come through, and I wanted to take a moment just to acknowledge all those elders that have passed.
mm,
And I've been in conversations with many people, and many of our elders are crossing over. Many of our wisdom keepers, those that have the stories, that know the teachings, that know the medicine, that have the memories. We've lost a number this last year. And I just want to take a moment just to acknowledge them and thank them. I know they're listening. You know, and I want to encourage those people that are listening to make sure that you thank those that crossed over. I know it's painful. Many of us have we're still suffering, we're still grieving, but to leave that room open to be able to share whatever comes through you, whether it's tears or sadness or joy or memories, play their music. I remember my mom, she used to like, Javier Solis, but she also liked the Sonora Santanera. She was a good dancer, but she also liked Dizzy Gillespie, and she liked some good oldies too, So whenever I miss my mom, I play those songs, and I pretend like I'm dancing with her, you know.
mm,
So part of this journey is to recreate, the narrative that we want to live. This society has given us a narrative that really is very limiting. It's a perspective of black and white, good and bad, positive, negative, up or down, happy or sad, and in the reality, in many indigenous cultures, it's not like that. It's not that way. It's all of that. It's all of those things. And when we begin to recreate our narrative that way, we begin to then explore other ways of keeping these teachings alive. But the second part of this is acknowledging the relationships. If I've learned anything this year, I've learned to really appreciate the relationships. Really appreciate, and as a kid, when we would go visit people, we'd get in my dad's car and he'd scold us. Vale, vas, la casa de tu tía. When you get your aunt's house, before you run and play, you hug and kiss everybody. I used to hate it, man. Took half an hour to get in the door. I didn't even like some of my relatives. I didn't want to hug them. I just want to go play. And man, do I miss those hugs now?
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Do I wish I could walk in a room and greet everybody like that? Those simple teachings, that your relatives gave you about greeting, about acknowledging, about hugging, about blessing. Whoa, man, I wish I had those right now.
Mm.
So this is a time of really kind of reflecting and remembering around those sacred teachings. Because, for many of us, for all of us, really, this is a time of, heavy transition. I've talked to a number of people recently, and they talk about feeling this being a time of chaos. It's being a time of of uncertainty, of fear, and it is all of those things, But I wonder if Maestras, you could talk a little bit about, your reflection on what this time is. To you've in this last year of 2020 and now moving to 2021, what do you see as the teachings that are being presented to us, as we move into this new year? Maestra Deborah?
Mm. I think chaos is a fascinating word, chaos. And sometimes, when we hear chaos, we only hear it in this negative kind of representation of concepts, right?
Mm,
So it carries this negative thing. But, I want to challenge us, to really look at some of these things, because one thing that we know is that when there's adversity, when there's what we would say chaos, really it presents situations that allow for creativity
mm,
and inventions and doing things in a way that we would never ever do if it weren't for the, in parentheses, chaos, right? Um, it's funny. I was talking to, I work at the Latino Commission, and I was talking to one of the staff there yesterday, and I was saying that this quarantine, isn't, it's not unfamiliar to us. I mean, really,
mm,
when we think about quarantine, our communities are very familiar with quarantine.
mm,
We're quarantined, within the radio limits of where we're at, because you can't go past
mm-hmm.
that. We're
Yeah.
quarantined as people of color in our jobs, right? Because there's a glass ceiling. You know, we're quarantined in a lot of facets. That keep us, limited. And within that, then there has to come this creativity. So I was sharing with her. I was saying, you know, it reminds me, this confinement reminds me for time that I was doing, when I was in prison. And so you don't have none of the privileges, right?
Mm,
And so one of the things that we got really creative was in trying to cook. So you don't
mm.
have a stove. So what do? We cooked on the light, right? And we would get the ashtrays and get a candy bar and melt it, and we got fudge, you know? And so the creativeness, right, that comes out of this, it's really opportunities, but it's the way that we want to um, really embrace them, because we have the opportunity to embrace them with just anxiety, with just fear, you know, really, really just, feeling out of control because it feels like we don't have control. But the reality is that all of us have control over ourselves
Hmm.
and we have control over our spaces. And sometimes that's limiting, but we do have some. But it's the way that I choose to look at these things.
Hmm.
And I can be stuck in 2022 already, right? And what's going to happen? Or I really can be here today and enjoy what I have.
Hmm.
You know, I had a friend that we were going on a trip and we haven't even left yet. And then she would talk about how we're going to come back. And I said, my God, we haven't even got to experience it. We already are at returning. And so how do we want to really look at the situations that we're in? And I'm very grateful for, my mother, and I share about her often. She's a Puerto Rican woman. And if you would say, she's not very worldly in a sense of,
Hmm.
traveling extensively or anything, but she's so present to
Hmm.
living,
Hmm.
you know, and her thing is, oh, don't get excited. That's nothing. That's nothing. And I remember her telling my dad all the time, oh, you make this big thing out of nothing.
Hmm.
And, and I think we really have to, pause and to breathe and to go, really, what's going on? The reality is that, I do have a roof over my head and that's a blessing and that's a privilege because not everybody does,
Right.
you know, but to really kind of look and refocus that, there's like the commercial. If you don't like what you see, then change the way to see it. And the guy changes his glasses. And I think that we have that opportunity to do that and
Hmm.
not get,
Hmm. Hmm.
taken
Hmm.
under like with this current of fear and negativity.
Hmm. Yeah. Maestra?
There's a lot of words that come to my mind when I think of what's happening during this time that it had been for me personally. I would say in the beginning it was a lot of time for self-reflection.
Mm,
Self-reflection, because before the pandemic hit, we were just on a roll. We were just going from one training to another, and doing the work, which I don't even really want to say work because it's what I love to do, fulfilling our purpose, if you will. But it wasn't leaving a lot of time for self-reflection and self-awareness. Started to get what Maestro talks about, a lot of motion but no movement personally. So to be able to come to that full halt, that stop, the blessing in all of it was to have time to do that, to reconnect with myself, in my own energy, and connect with Creator on that deep soul level, and just see, reflect on the things that I need to let go of, that I need to forgive, things that I
Hmm.
need
mm,
to change, for my well-being and my health, things that I want to incorporate to maintain my balance. It's easy when we get on that hamster wheel and do this kind of work to get so wrapped up in everybody else's issues that it leaves little time
mm,
for you to work on your own. So the self-reflection, the self-awareness, very powerful time. Also, a lot of time of truth.
Hmm.
What is my truth? I know
mm,
everybody has a different truth, but what is my truth, and what do I believe in, and what works for me? I know I spend a lot of time knowing what I don't believe in, and knowing what I don't want, but I spend a little time thinking, what do I truly want,
Hmm.
mm,
and how can I make those things happen? And then it kept going on for months and months and months. And like you're thinking, okay, in 2 months we'll be back, back on doing what we do. And then it wasn't happening. And another month, and now we're already into another year. And it's like, oh my goodness, who would have thought?
yeah,
So to me, that got me to that point. I think where we all need to get to at some point was to learn, release, and surrender. We've done everything that we can possibly do in our own home, in our own families, um, protecting ourselves and whatever that takes to maintain But now the rest I have to surrender. I have to trust in Creator. And, it just, it's hard to do because we're so used to doing. And a lot of us, validate our worth on what we do. And
Mhm.
we think we're what we do. We're not what we do. But who are we just as a human being, just being? And know that that's enough and we're still okay. Doesn't mean that because we're not out working like we normally do that we have no value. We have a lot of value, but it's for us to know that, not depend on others to give us that validation all the time.
You mentioned the sense of control, and I know that's a Western value. That's how this country was,
Yeah.
in terms of when the Europeans came over. Their whole thing was conquering and controlling, right? That we're going to conquer you and we're going to control you and we're going to be in control and you're going to do what I say. And so for many of us, we believe that is what well-being is, being in
Mhm.
control. We even have this false narrative and false idea that we can control nature, that
Mhm.
we can control, um, the seasons of the year. We can control water. We can control, and we've done that. Cut down
Mhm.
trees. We've interrupted waterways, and we've interrupted a whole bunch of things, and it's impacted us in a very negative way, right?
Yeah.
And I mentioned chaos, and it's caused chaos. We've caused the chaos, right? It's
Yeah.
not like the chaos has happened to us, but we have caused that. And I think that they say that when the roosters come home, calling, and that's what's happening, for much of what's going on in this country because of the oppression and the racism. We see the inequity in health. We see many people that have compromised health, people of color that have compromised health, and then their immune systems, because they've had to carry generations of pain,
Mhm.
generations of stress, generations of fear. Now a disease comes and they're compromised, and it's not coincidental that
Yeah.
it's disproportionate. So the chaos that we're seeing is not just out of the wind. It's been calculated, and it's part of a process. The question is, what do we do with it? And what do we do, and how do you see it? Because, in our traditional indigenous way, everything is a teaching, you know. And one of the things that it's hit me is that, and I think both of you mentioned it, is this is a time of truth. We're seeing the truth. I mean, even though
Mhm.
we see so many false statements and false narratives and false news and all of that, even that reveals something. Even that reveals something. And Maestra, you mentioned about working with people, and I've worked with people that have been wounded for years, and and the most blatant is when you see somebody and you see them do something, and you said, hey, you just did that, you just spilled that milk, and you saw it, and they said, no, I didn't.
Yeah.
I saw you spill it. No, I didn't. You must have been tripping. You must have been, seeing things. No, I saw you spill the milk, fool. No, I didn't. No, that wasn't me. It must have been the wind,
Yeah.
And and part of healing is facing truth,
Yeah.
right? And so us as a society, us as a universe, are now facing that truth,
Yeah.
of who you really are. Who are we really as a nation? Who are we really as a people? And what this pandemic has done is it's in a strange way united all of us, because we're all suffering. We're all going through the same. But we've known that all along. That word in Cloquenahuaque that comes from our indigenous language says we're all related, and not just to people, to nature, to
Mhm.
the animals, to everything, to the wind, to the trees, to the sun. And all of those teachings now are coming a full circle to all of us. The question is, what do we do with that, and how do we deal with these times of uncertainty that sometimes create fear or anxiety, depression, all of those things? What do we do with it? And I'm wondering if either of you can talk a little bit about what has helped you, and what do you advise how do we handle the fear? How do we handle the anxiety? How do we handle the anger that some of us feel with some of the stuff we see going on politically, or in our communities, the injustice, all that? How do we handle all of those feelings? What has helped you to be able to address those things? Maestra Deborah?
It's really interesting because I know, like, within my own personal journey, right? And for those that know me, I love history and I love culture and spiritual, the cultural spirituality and things like that. And I think, I remember in my journey coming off the tail end of the Chicano movement and, all puro brown power and, like that was the deal. But because of the woundedness, right? We weren't able to sustain that. And so we have a lot of
Mm,
casualties that came out of that drugs took them out, alcohol took them out, the violence took them out. And so sometimes we get disillusioned. And
mm,
I remember, studying culturally, going back to the Aztecs and the Mayas and then, because we just, really kind of looking for someone to blame, right? Like we're
mm,
better than or something like that, right? And so I was like, oh, the Aztecs, that's where it runs in my veins, and blah blah blah. And then when you study and go, oh wait a minute, they too conquered and they too enslaved. And I'm
mm,
like, wait a minute, I don't want to hear that,
mm,
because I want us to be somehow different, you know. And I think when you reflect that worldwide, you'll see these things worldwide. It's a global theme about humanity.
mm,
Um, but then when we really look into, and I think that that's where we get lost, right? Because when we come to basic principles, indigenous principles, there's an acknowledgement before the empire gets so great and they think they're all that. There's these underlining principles. And one is that there is something greater than us.
mm,
Two, everything is connected. So we are in relationship to, the dimension and where we're at. So, from the sky to the earth and under the waters and all, there's a relationship.
mm,
And three is keeping the balance of where we move within all that. And
mm,
I think if we can really understand that and internalize that and understanding that we're going to be sick if we're out of balance with any of that.
mm,
Because if I believe that I am a reflection of that light and that light lives within me, then there's a compromiso, right? There's this commitment to go, okay, so if I'm a reflection of that light, then what is it, that I'm doing or not doing, or how do I do it? That's a reflection of that in relationship to my brother, my sister, you know, the animals, the trees, the wind, the water, you know, and, and to me, that's understanding really for me, my position within all that,
mm,
that I, as Debra Luis Camarillo, intentionally want to walk this path. That's a reflection of Ometeo, the duality of all that is in a
mm,
good way. Then that means that my life's work is going to be walking in a good way in relationship to all that.
mm.
Now, that doesn't mean that I'm perfect because I'm coming in with wounds.
Yeah.
You know, we all come to this place where que se prende el foco. But until that, we're, probably have made a lot of messes with our good intentions,
Mm,
you know? And so then we come on this path to intentionally, I today intentionally want to live a life in reflection of.
mm,
But because my intention is that and my commitment is that, doesn't mean that I don't fall short sometimes
mhm,
because it's a growth, it's a process and it's a process that is not about perfection. It's about living, you know, because what might be joyful for me might not be joyful for you.
Mm-hmm.
But that's okay. My only responsibility is to honor you and not try to make a little mini me out of you, right?
Yeah.
And so I think for me that has been the challenge. And when we come down, when we talk like medicine wheels, and when we talk about the indigenous perspective of looking at that, that's what, that disharmony, that's where illness comes in.
Mm.
And so looking at, I think for me is really staying focused on that part. For me is that spiritual connection. Keeping that part well for me helps me then to consciously be in relation and working in good relation to everything else in this dimension.
Mm.
And all that means, because it does mean setting limits and boundaries. And it does mean, limiting some places I might go and might not go, you
Mm.
know. And it's that spiritual connection and the work to keep grounded in that helps me to deal with everything else so I don't get overwhelmed and I don't drown, with that.
Mm.
There's that
Mm-hmm.
parable that says, look at the birds. The birds aren't anxious for tomorrow. They're not anxious about, oh my God, where's my nest going to be tomorrow? Where's that little worm going to be tomorrow? You know, they're like, today I'm going to get this little twig and put it up here and I'm going to go get a worm over there. Tomorrow, it's because that's in creator's hands. And so, for me, that's what's been helpful for me.
Such a simple teaching, but
Basic.
so powerful that yeah. Maestra, you
Good teaching, maestra. Good reminders. As you're talking, it just reminds me of my own journey and what's got me this far, of course. Like I always say, primero Dios. It's been constant prayer, faith, and trust. Intentionally making it a point to stay connected to Creator and the ancestors, and being open to that guidance as it comes in, and following it, trusting it, and following it. And I talked earlier about surrender. That was a big lesson for me because I had always been, growing up on my own and trying to find my own way, and didn't want to depend on anybody. Just I could do it. I'll figure it out. And it's always been Creator really that has sustained me when I didn't have anyone else to turn to, and it's always what has gotten me through. A few years back, when I had an injury to my back and wasn't able to get up anymore and do anything, and it was heartbreaking. It was just, I can't believe I'm here. How did I get here? And for those of you that know me, I've been a danzante, for 40 years, and my medicine and my gift and my sustenance is always la danza. Whatever's going to happen, I'm going to keep on dancing, keep on moving, and that's what sustained me through anything. It was like, whatever happens, just keep dancing, and you'll get through it. Keep offering those prayers in motion and keep moving. Well, when my back went out, it was like, okay, I couldn't access that medicine anymore because I couldn't get up and do it. I couldn't, that had been my streamlined carpool lane to Creator, get on, out there and start doing my danza and connecting, calling upon the spirits of the ancestors, and asking for that guidance and that wisdom. And boom, there it was. And now I couldn't do that. I didn't have access to that. And I was like, God, I felt so betrayed. I was like, what? I've devoted my whole life to this. God, why could you take this away from me?
Mm.
The thing that has kept me alive, the thing that's fed me spiritually for so long. Why would you do that to me? Of anything, why would you take that away from me? And here came the answer. Laying there and that deep prayer, just begging Creator to don't do that, to give it back.
Mm.
And the answer said, don't you realize it's not the danza that sustains you, it's me.
Mm.
And I was like, oh my God, how pendeja of me to think that it was in the physical form that's what it was. Yeah, it was a connection to all that, and it's all connected. But the root and the source is Creator, or everything that we do, and so that continues to be my first and foremost daily ritual and go to, every day, and then from then on, through the day, when all the scary anxiety hits and all the reality of what's going on, I have to remember I don't have control of that, but I do have control of my thoughts, where I want to focus, what do I want to water, and you know, Creator gives me that medicine and that choice, to choose where I want to put my focus, and for the things that I didn't have control over, what do I have control over right now? And all I have control over right now is what goes on in my home and with my children and my partner, and that's where I'm going to put my focus and try to make the best of it. Make the best of it, and then connect with people when I can, and just remember in the end, really, what is really the the key to all of it, and what is the most important thing to me, and it's that we stay connected heart to heart. That love remains no matter what happens. Our love remains.
Wow. Yeah, that's a beautiful teaching, and I know that we have some of our listeners that have different ways of connecting to greater spirit or that greater source, and we encourage you to explore that, and for some of you it's listening to your heart, for some of it's paying attention to that medicine inside of you, but what I think the message here is that it's not relying on society. It's not relying on these systems. It's not relying on a law or even a president that's gonna take things away. Yeah, I mean, I think the reality is that some political persuasions can make it more difficult and confuse it in a certain way. But when we talk about balance, we talk about the sense of harmony and the sense of health and well-being. That what Maestra Susie mentioned dance. What is your dance in your life? Who are your partners? Who do you invite to dance with you? And I mean that literally too. Who do you bring around you to dance with you? Because even some of our family members, I know I've had to intentionally not interact with certain people because the energy they bring a different kind of song, and I'm not going to criticize them and say it's a bad, just it's not what I need, it's not what feeds me, it's not what helps me. So who do you dance with, and what kind of rhythms do you play to dance with? We can continue playing that very same song to talk about the tragedies and the negative things and the victimization we've been. We can continue playing those songs, and we're going to be right there. And I'm not saying we don't face those things, but sometimes it's good, play a good little, oogum boogum with the Bretton Wood, or play a little, a little Tower of Power, or those things that I like. What is hip, or and sometimes I like the oldies. I like those oldies, and sometimes I just need to be in the rhythm of silence so that I can hear the messages. And you talked about the birds, Maestra. One of the things that I like to do is in the morning, and Maestra Susie always says, your friends are out there, because I like to go out there and sing to the birds. My mama used to whistle. She would whistle, and it brings such a joy in the house. When she was cooking, she'd whistle. And so I learned to whistle. She gave me that gift. And so I go out there and sing to those birds. And it's and I try and compete with them. They got these, I can't do it as good as them, but I do it. And then they sing back to me. They like battle me. Fool, you can't whistle. Let me show you how to do it, right? But what it does is it really connects me with something outside of myself. And even if you don't call it creator or spirituality or God or whatever, those birds are part of creation. The tree, the grass, all of those things, and that's what's helped me to get outside. I go out, and one of our elders that passed, may rest in peace, Don Marcelino, the Tata Sol was like, he recognized the great energy from the sun, and so sometimes I go and I just face the sun and I actually do a limpia, do a cleansing with that sun like that. So, and we forget about those things, because I live in an area in which there is sun. There's some people that don't live in sun, and so just to be grateful for that. But I just want to acknowledge, that this doesn't mean that we ignore the pain, and doesn't mean that we ignore the tragedy, doesn't mean we ignore the injustice, and doesn't mean that we don't have a role in righting, the injustice, or speaking up, or marching for racial equity, or challenging those things that really are racist, or negative towards our people. Yes,
Yeah.
that's part of our responsibility to do, but how we do it
Yeah.
is really our choice, you know. And as we're approaching this year, we get to choose how we do it, how we approach these things, and what parts of, if you will, the messaging and the feelings we hold on to, and I wonder, Maestra, if you could, expound on that a little bit, because I see you shaking your head, and I know there's a lot of teachings that you've learned in your own life related to how we choose to handle even what seems like injustice and tragedy and pain in our life.
First of all, it's not in my head because I agree with you.
Which oldie did you like?
Wasn't that unnecessary? That's what you said. But you know, there's never been a promise that life is going to be fair. Life is not fair.
Hmm.
Justice will always exist because of our human nature in that way, because it needs, it's in wanting of healing, um, affords that injustice continues on in this dimension. And I know that some of the prophecies of our elders, and we've seen it in sacred writings, and until that time of full renewal will, we say justice will come,
Hmm.
but we're not there yet. In this dimension, there is injustice, and I think that's one of the hardest things when we try to logically look at injustice.
Hmm.
Because when we look in that way, we want an answer for why it exists and why do bad things happen to good people, you know, and it's easy to do, because life isn't fair. And especially when we have such good people that have brought such great contributions to their communities or society in general. And then we see these tragedies happen to their lives. It doesn't make sense. And I think our human curiosity wants an answer.
Hmm.
But the reality is that really in life there's very few answers. Very few, you know.
Hmm.
Sometimes we are fortunate to get an answer, but that's not the norm. It
Hmm.
really isn't. And I think acknowledging that brings in the position of faith,
Yeah.
because whether I'm fortunate and to have escaped maybe a lot of tragedy, that's a blessing,
Hmm.
but it's not a given. There's no one
Hmm.
here that, has some kind of contract that says my life can only have happy times, you know. That would be great, because I sure would like to find that and sign up for that one, because I would love to have a happy life with no pain. But the reality is that pain serves, and justice serves us
Hmm.
as teachings, and profound teachings,
Yeah.
because we will never get that teaching until we go to that abyss. It's the depths of the abyss that we can reach into our spirit in a way, and our soul in a way that nothing else will afford us,
Hmm.
you know. And I look, into my life, I've had several experiences that were very painful, really painful, physically painful or emotionally painful experiences. And in each one of those experiences, I have had to come to that place, and that's what Maestra Susie shared, where I have to surrender.
Yeah.
And I say surrender in the way that saying, if this pain never goes away, am I still going to believe?
Wow.
And it's at that point, and those around me hear me say this a lot. You believe or you don't believe,
Mm-hmm.
because you can't believe today and not believe tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to believe today. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And so it's at that place to go, okay, but it's those situations that really get us to the state, because if there's no pain, you're not going to change. There's no reason to
Mm.
change,
Mm.
you know? Pain's a great motivator to change. But in that situation that's so wrenching, it takes us to a place to go, okay, so what do I want to do with this?
Wow.
And there's where, some of us choose to do something good with things, and that's a choice, as well as a choice to be vindictive or hateful, or, guardar rincor, be very resentful, you
Mm.
know. So we have that opportunity to
Mm-hmm.
shift it in the
Wow.
way that we want to. Do
Mm.
you want to come out with that healing and allow for forgiveness and love? Or do you want to be consumed with that cancer? And that cancer is very hard to live with, but it is our choice. And for me, choosing to surrender those parts allows me then to not have to be responsible for the outcome.
Mm.
So I turn that over to Creator. It's Creator's responsibility, not
Mm.
mine, but my responsibility to have that faith. I want to have that faith to go, you know what? I don't know what's going to happen right now, but you, I know you got things under control. And
Mm.
so, and whatever that is and however that's going to look, I trust that,
Yeah.
because I know when I look at my life, like that sun comes out every morning, whether I
Yeah.
see it or not, that's what's there.
Yeah.
And that compromiso is what Creator offers us.
Mm-hmm.
That's why that symbol of the sun is so important, right? Because it's the compromiso with humanity to say, whether you see me or not, I am here and I got you. And I
Mm.
got you.
Mm.
But in saying that also doesn't mean that tragedy or travesty is not going to happen to your life. But
Yeah.
even in that, in the worst time, still we can have peace
Yeah.
and comfort within our souls. That's the way that I choose to look at that and have fun along the way. Because I have to have fun and I have to laugh,
Yeah.
and I think Creator, the biggest jokester, you know, and puts funny things in our life, so that we
Yeah.
can also learn with
Yeah.
with laughter and contentment and joy,
Mm.
because it's through those things that we can have joy. It's not this temporary thing. No, there's a deep joy that we can feel and partake in when there's peace within our heart.
Mm. Wow. Maestra?
Yeah, yeah. Él es Dios,
Mm.
maestra. That duality of life,
Mm,
that's one of the first lessons in the danza that I learned was everything you do to the left, you do to the right. You keep
mm,
that balance. There's always going to be a duality, the light, the dark. And I think it's because we can't control everything that's going on around us. I think we've come to a point in this time where we need to make that decision for ourselves what side we want to walk on,
mm,
because the line is so thin, like they say in that song, between love and hate.
mm,
It's a thin line. It's a thin line. And I think what always holds me um, accountable is my children and my grandchildren,
Mm.
mm,
because they're watching all the time,
Wow.
all the time. And they're watching this process of what's going on right now, and how we're navigating it. And in the hardest of times, and to remembering our ancestors and what they sacrificed and how they did it, just trying to keep all those things in perspective. So many of our ancestors, what they've had to endure is just talk about injustice. There's just not even any words for it. It's
mhm,
beyond injustice, and so unfair. And but I think Creator has blessed us with the gift of choice, and we can choose what we want to do with that. That's all we really have control over, is how we respond, um, and and how we want to receive these things, and what we want to teach our children. They're grown, they're born, it's pure. That pure, they come from water, out of the water, and into the earth, and they're pure. It's what they see around them is through the years, and how they're being treated, and how others are being treated, is how what they learn. So I think it's real important for us. I know it is for me with my own children, to really be careful, really be mindful of what I want to teach them, what examples I want to give them, so that when they make their choices of who they want to be and how they want to be, they do it consciously.
Yeah. I really appreciate that teaching, that the way I received his life is not easy, and we are gonna be in struggle. But I again, what I'm reminded of is that's how we came into this world. Our mamas had a choice, when they held us, and they knew they were gonna sacrifice and have to struggle, but our all that feminine made that choice of birthing us in spite of the struggle, in spite of the pain, in spite of the uncertainty, because you don't know what you're going to go through, and if you're going to survive even, right? Yeah. You or your child's going to survive. And so the feminine, the women of our universe have been the prime example of sacrifice and bringing beauty to the world in spite of the expected pain and the struggle that way. And I think when we recognize that, and recognize that within all of us we have the ability, with thinking about the children, to do better, a little bit better, and I was sharing with somebody, I just want to do a little bit better at trusting, a little bit better at watering the positive, a little bit better at not shying away from what I need to deal with, my own teachings, my own pains, my own trauma, just a little bit better at loving a little bit more, a little bit better at and just appreciating people, a little bit better about connecting with folks, and all just a little bit better. And I think that's what we call people to do. So as we end today, and really excited because the maestros are going to have chosen, they've made the commitment that once a month they're going to come on and bring some teachers on as well, to have discussions and continue these teachings that way. So I'm really excited about that. But for today, I wanted to just give the masters one last closing remarks of anything you'd like to say to the audience as we close this particular ceremony out, that way. And I'll pass the mic to Deb.
Well, no, I'm excited. I'm excited that we will be being able to share a podcast that is going to be coming out on a monthly basis, so that mujeres can hear from mujeres. And I think that that's really important. There's women's stories that have not been told, and we want to be able to have a platform to share those stories and those teachings. So I'm really excited, and I know me and Mayas are just count ourselves so blessed to be, and honored to be able to host these up and coming podcasts. So I'm excited, and I hope everybody will tune in and join us for those, and to understand that we're just two mujeres, but the reality is that there's thousands of us out there that have beautiful stories, and we just need to share those stories and the teaching and the medicine, because we're very strong. We have survived, and we're going to continue to survive, and the mujeres signify and bring life to humanity. So I'm excited about the up and coming podcast.
Master Susie.
Igualmente, maestra, igualmente. And for those of you who want to reach out and refer, we're open to your suggestions. And we just want to learn from everyone. Everyone has medicine to share, and everyone needs your medicine. So please don't hesitate on the Compadres Network to connect with us and let us know who those people, those powerful women are for you, so that we can all be able to embrace the medicine together. And just as we move forward, just it's a choice, and I hope in those most difficult times you choose love. Choose love, and when your children see that, and give them permission to know they can do that too.
Wow. What a beautiful way for us to close this out with love. And so we offer our love to all of you out there. We offer healing prayers for any of you that are struggling or have lost loved ones, but also are struggling yourself. And we hope that some of these teachings today will help you just a little bit, to be just a little bit better that way, and make sure that you check in with people and connect with them, and especially those elders, but also make sure you take some time for yourself, to bless yourself, to remind yourself that you are sacred and a blessing just the way you are, and that we'll continue together in Tlokenawake. When you hurt, we hurt, but when you heal, we heal. And we're on this road that we can all heal together and heal all our relationships. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful and blessed day. Glasukaman.
Delicioso.
Bendiciones.
For more information about Healing Generations and the Healing Generations Institute, visit nationalcompadresnetwork.org and be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with our new releases.